Welcome to All Baseball History, the channel for all things baseball. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a thing, and with that, let's get to today's video.
Long before Major League Baseball came to Seattle, the city had a minor league team named the Seattle Rainiers, who played in the Pacific Coast League for many years. The Rainiers, originally known as the Clam Diggers, formed in 1903 but folded in 1906 due to the league's financial issues. But the club got a second chance, reforming for the 1919 season while also rebranding the team's name to the Seattle Indians. However, the team's truly successful years didn't begin until after the team was bought in 1938 by businessman Emil Sick. As the owner of the Rainier Brewing Company, Sick decided to once again change the team's name to the Seattle Rainiers. Upon purchasing the club, he immediately began making investments in improving the team. He also funded the construction of a brand new 15,000-seat stadium that would later be known as Sick Stadium. The investments paid off as the team won 5 league titles between the early 1940s and the mid-1950s. After a number of lackluster seasons, Sick sold the Rainiers to the Boston Red Sox in 1960. They became Boston's minor league affiliate team, and later they would be sold to the Los Angeles Angels and renamed to the Seattle Angels. By this time, Major League Baseball had finally reached the West Coast after the Dodgers and the Giants moved to LA and San Francisco in 1958. This had a huge impact on the overall interest in the Pacific Coast League, as for the next decade, MLB teams often used moving to a West Coast city as a threat to get new stadiums built in their towns. By the early mid-1960s, Seattle had the third largest metropolitan area in the West at the time, and no other major sports teams, making it a prime candidate for relocation. The Cleveland Indians briefly considered moving the team to Seattle in 1964, and the team's owner, William R. Daley, even visited Seattle to search for possible stadium sites. Daley told Seattle that Sick Stadium wasn't suitable for a major league club, and it would need to be expanded to at least 25,000 seats to attract a team, even as a temporary home. Around the same time, Emil Sick had passed away and the ownership of Sick Stadium was turned over to his family. The city of Seattle, coincidentally, had been buying up land around the city for possible future sites to expand the I-5 freeway. One of those locations was the land that Sick Stadium sat on, which the city paid Sick's family $1.15 million for in 1965. The city never ended up using Sick Stadium's land for the freeway, using other locations they had bought instead. But this meant that Seattle was now stuck as the owners of Sick Stadium. Meanwhile, Daley and the Indians had decided against moving to Seattle after negotiating better terms with their lease of Cleveland's Municipal Stadium.
In a very similar situation, 3 years later in 1967, the Kansas City Athletics also considered moving to Seattle after their lease ran out with Kansas City's Municipal Stadium. The A's owner Charlie Finley also visited Seattle, and just like Daley before him, Finley joked that the small, aging Sick Stadium lived up to its name. The A's ultimately decided on Oakland as the better fit and moved to the Bay Area in 1968.
I just want to pause real quick to ask, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe as well. Okay, let's get back to the video. After having been rejected by the Indians and the Athletics, Seattle then turned its efforts into gaining an expansion team.
During the 1967 owners' meetings in Mexico City, Seattle enlisted the help of 2 U.S. Senators, Henry M. Scoop Jackson and Warren Magnuson, to try and convince the owners to grant an expansion franchise to the city.
Senator Magnuson also happened to be the chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, who oversaw the business dealings of Major League Baseball, and this gave him immense influence over all the club's owners. Originally, the league had not wanted to expand until the 1971 season, but due to the pressure that Missouri Senator Stuart Symington had placed on them, who was still livid about the Athletics leaving Kansas City, the owners then agreed to push up the expansion to the 1969 season. 4 cities were granted expansions. The National League would get 2 teams, one in Montreal and the other in San Diego. The American League would also get 2 teams, with one in Kansas City and the other in Seattle. But the owners were hesitant to grant an expansion to Seattle unless they got the insurance that a new stadium would be built to replace the undersized Sick Stadium. But Seattle convinced the owners that Sick Stadium could be renovated in 5 months, expanding it to 30,000 seats, and that it would only be used as a temporary home until a new stadium could be built. The main ownership group of Seattle's new team was called Pacific Northwest Sports Incorporated.
The group was mainly led by 2 brothers, Max and Dewey Soriano. Dewey was a former pitcher and general manager of the Rainiers, as well as the former president of the Pacific Coast League. The team settled on the nickname Seattle Pilots due to the Seattle's connection with the aviation industry and Dewey Soriano's past as a part-time ship pilot. The team's colors were mainly royal blue, gold, and white, with a block letter S used as the logo on the hats.
After becoming friendly with both Indians' part owners, William Daley and Gabe Paul, during their trip to Seattle in 1964, Dewey Soriano later asked Daley if he would help him pay the expansion costs to get the pilots up and running. Daley, who had sold his ownership of the Indians in 1966, would in exchange get a 47% stake in the team, making him part owner of the pilots. Dewey Soriano became the team's president, while Daley acted as the team's chairman of the board. The pilots were also forced to pay the Pacific Coast League $1 million in compensation for the loss of the Rainiers, who folded shortly after the announcement of the pilots coming to Seattle. All that was left before the pilots could begin play was getting the plans for their new stadium approved. On February 13, 1968, voters in King County, Washington, the county where Seattle is located, voted in favor of spending $40 million in bonds to construct a brand new domed multi-purpose stadium in Seattle. The hope was that the new stadium could be built within a few years, opening sometime in the early 1970s.
So what did you guys think about the Seattle Rainiers folding after the pilots came into existence? Do you wish that the Rainiers had stuck around longer instead of the short-lived pilots? Let me know in the comments below.